Hello everyone, are you ready for another anime recap? Then subscribe right now to this Anime Plots YouTube channel and watch this full video. Did you subscribe? Okay, let's start the video.
It's the year 2126. These days, people play hyper-realistic MMORPG game called the Yggdrasil. However, this game was coming to an end. While almost all players had started to leave the game one by one, a high-ranking player and the leader of the most feared guild in Zul'Gao named Mamanga, with an undead avatar, is one of the very few who decides to stay back. After spending so much time together and creating this unbeatable guild, all 41 members except Mamanga had left the game, and finally today after 12 he would be leaving as well. Mamanga grabs onto the guild's main weapon and heads into the other room where a group of NPCs are waiting for his command. He orders them to follow him into the throne room of the guild. There, right beside this throne, stands the prettiest and strongest NPC among them all, Albedo. With not much time left for the game's conclusion, Mamanga decides to mess with the source code of the NPCs a little bit. Then Mamanga sits himself down and takes one glance at his grand guild and closes his eyes as the clock strikes 12. When he opens his eyes again, Mamanga has still not been logged out of the game. Something was wrong. He quickly tries to test the messages manually and log out from the game, but it doesn't seem to work. Mamanga starts to get agitated, and to add to his surprise, Albedo speaks to him and asks him what was wrong. Mamanga stares her down. She seemed so real, and more importantly, unlike the game, her mouth was moving. She was actually talking to him, and everything about her seems to be hyper-realistic. He then sends one of the NPCs, Sabas, a leader among the guard NPC of the guild hall, to check the surrounding area. He notes that the NPCs could now take commands without having to use specific game keywords from the game. He had most definitely ice-skated into another world. However, Mamanga had to be absolutely sure, and after sending away the battle-made NPCs to guard the rest of the floor, he calls Albedo next to him. He immediately realizes that she feels real and even has her own smell, but one final test was in order. He asks Albedo as calmly as he can if he can touch her chest, and the girl, who is most definitely crazily in love with him, agrees to let him have his way. Mamanga goes for it, and grabs her, concluding that yes, everything and everyone around him was real. He then excuses himself and asks Albedo to gather all the Guardian NPC from all floors of their guild except the 1st, 4th, and 8th floor Guardians to the fighting arena on the 6th floor. He then heads to the arena himself and meets up with the Guardians of the 6th floor, 2 cross-dressing dark elves, Mare and Aura. Mamanga decides that while he is there, he should also test the extent of his magic. He summons a huge level 80 magical beast. The thing roars like a literal demon, but Mamanga can't be bothered to fight it, and instead lets the 2 kids handle the business. Just as the elves are done with the elemental demon, the floor guardians of Nezoric enter the arena and introduce themselves one by one. Guardian of the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd floor, Shelter Bloodfallen, a true vampire. Cositus, the guardian of the 5th floor, who Mamanga tells is the definition of the warrior. Demiurge, the guardian of the 7th floor, a true demon, and finally Albedo, the overseer of the floor guardians. One by one, in order to assert his dominance in the presence of such powerful beings, Mamanga makes them pledge loyalty to him. The guardians are surprisingly super loyal to their master. The undead leader is pleased with their vows of loyalty, but is suddenly notified by Sabas that their guild, the Great Tomb of Narazic, had been entirely teleported to an unknown land outside of Yggdrasil. Astonished at this sudden change, Mamanga asks the guardians to start strengthening their defenses and requests Mare to use his earth magic to blend the Great Tomb of Nezoric into the surrounding area. He then gives the guardians their respective orders and leaves. In his private chambers, Mamanga sits down, realizing that most of the mechanics from the game still applied to him, and since he had his class set as a magician in the game, he could no longer use any physical weapons. However, there was a way to bypass this rule. He uses armor to temporarily set himself as a warrior class, and this gives him the ability to use weapons. Mission success. Mamanga then heads outside to take a look for himself at the new world that he was transported to. However, he is followed by Demiurge. While talking to himself, Mamanga mumbles how world domination would be a fun idea in a new world. Unfortunately for him, Demiurge hears all this and already has a plan cooking in his head. Elsewhere though, something, or rather someone crazy, is scheming up another evil plan. Back at the Nezoric, while using his magic mirror, Mamanga stumbles upon a village named Karn which is being attacked by some unknown knights. Since Mamanga has started to transform mentally into an undead as well, at first he finds no empathy for the humans being ruthlessly killed. However, when Sabas inquires if they should help the people of that city, he remembers back in the day when he was still a noob at the game. Everybody used to bully him, especially because he was of the weak class, undead. Then there was one overdramatic hero named Touch Me, who saved him. This hero was the same man who had created Sabas while he was at the guild alongside Mamanga. Touch Me believed that it was their duty to save people who were in need, so in order to carry on his friend's legacy, Mamanga decides to help out the village after all. He rises from his seat and tells Sabas to ask Albedo TP join him when she can, and leaves. Back on the outskirts of Karn village, 2 soldiers have surrounded a poor girl, Ern, and her younger sister after brutally finishing off their parents. They are about to do the same to the girls when suddenly their eyes widen as Mamanga enters the area through a magical gate. Almost instantly he uses a tier 13 magic which vaporizes one of the soldiers instantly. Disappointed, Mamanga then fires a puny tier 5 magic, and that too kills the remaining soldier in an instant. As Albedo appears behind him, Momonga hands a red healing potion to the girl who has been wounded in the last battle and also hands her some cheap goblin summoning horns which could be used to help her when she needed. He then turns his attention to saving the village and casts a magic spell called Death Knight. Soon the lifeless body of the man before him turns into a huge monstrous Death Knight, and Momonga commands it to go and obliterate every single soldier in the village. When the chaos is over, Momonga appears before the crowd of villagers and reveals himself as the man who had saved them. He proudly announces his name, Ains O'Gown, hoping that if there was anyone else who was stuck here from the game, someday they would find him since the name of Ains O'Gown was pretty famous. Ains then manages to get a hold of the leader of the village who surprisingly is still alive and asks him for all the information of the world as a reward for saving the village from the soldier. The innocent village leader does just that and gives him all the information that he's got. Finally, after finishing with the payback that they buried the deceased, Ains has a ton of spells to bring back the dead, but he decides it's best not to draw more attention to himself. Just as he is about to leave, a group of warriors led by a man named Gazef Encounter arrives at Karn village. Gaze introduces himself as the main warrior of the Royal Guard of Irantal who had arrived there after recently encountering another sacked village. He has come there to protect the village from the knights who have been going around sacking village after village. Nigan Gridluin, a very sly sorcerer of some kind, has just received a 7th tier magic item from the leaders of the slain theocracy to assassinate Gazef Stranov, and it was his soldier who was sacking villages, luring the man into their trap. Nigan's men march on to Karn village with a team of magic casters to finish Gazef. Realizing this, Gazef attempts to convince Ains, since he had defeated an entire army earlier, to defend the village. However, Ains refuses to help him because he has no benefit in doing so. Regardless, the selfless man requests Ains to protect the villagers if he cannot protect him, to which Ains agrees. After all, he needed the villagers to live so that his name could be spread. Ains, however, takes a liking to Gazef and his personality, and hands him an item before he heads into battle. Finally, Gazef and his men set out to confront the slain theocracy with all their might while Ains assists the villagers in escaping. Gazef and his men fight valiantly against the magical beasts that Ains recalls being weak monsters called Archangel Flames from the Yggdrasil game. These monsters barely even gave him EXP anymore. At first, Gazef uses his martial arts ability to overpower the monster along with his men, but suddenly some more of them are summoned and Gazef and his men are heavily outnumbered and consequently defeated. Before Nigan's magic casters can deal the final blow, the item that Ains had previously given Gazef activates and swaps Ains and Albedo in place of Gazef on the battlefield. As soon as he appears, Ains warns his opponents to surrender if they wanted an easy release of their souls to the underworld, but the cocky villains think that the man was bluffing. Immediately, Ains begins effortlessly batting away the attacks of Nigan's men, much to their shock, and why not? These losers haven't had someone to match or rather exceed their strength in a long while. When all of their so-called monster angels are finished within seconds, Nigan has no choice but to activate a 7th tier spell given to him, summoning a powerful angel to attack Ains. The attack barely inflicts pain on Ains, which he scoffs about it. Dumbfounded and horrified at the power Ains displayed, Nigan begins to beg for his life. But the Overlord gives him what he deserves, a place in hell. After the battle is over, Ains returns back to Nazoric and announces his new name, and their goal of spreading his new name, Ains O'Gown, across these new lands. When all that is done, Ains gives his orders to Sabas, the maid NPC, and Shelter to infiltrate the world and find and capture the strongest of men from around the whole world.
How was the video? We hope it was good. If so, please check these videos. Also, please comment down your thoughts and your suggestions for future videos. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing now to show the support to our channel. We hope to see you soon with another video right in this channel. Have a nice day.